All right, so if you're here for the podcast, just skip ahead 30 seconds. And if you're not, well, you can look at my beautiful face. So, the goldfish vending machine has been taking a lot longer than I thought it would. And I obviously don't have the video finished. So in the meantime, you guys can listen to this podcast that I made for an English class. It's not great, and I made it about 7 months ago, so it might be a little outdated. But go ahead and give it a listen, and hopefully we have the vending machine done by next week. And if not, well, I don't think it's ever going to be finished. So I'm kidding. It'll be finished soon, and leave a comment and say if you want it in 2 parts or 1 part, because this thing's like 30 minutes long. So give me some advice and tell me what you think of the podcast. Should we keep it going, or maybe it was trash? I don't know. Leave it down in the comments and smash the like button. See you guys. My name is Max Perry, and this is Corporate versus Consumer, the podcast where we look at how corporations affect consumers and other corporations. In the last episode, we asked the question, are the rabbits of Greenwich abusing their dominant market share of the mac and cheese industry? The answer was surprisingly complex, and you'll have to listen to find out. Make sure you subscribe to Corporate versus Consumer wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, the largest corporation in the world by market cap and one of the world's largest technology companies by market share, is a giant known the whole world over. When companies this big run into trouble, they normally steamroll right over it. Google, a similar business, gets slammed with antitrust suits it seems every other day, but still have yet to ever pay a full fine. When businesses get this large, they can seem invincible and hard to work with, especially companies like Apple, who set prices where they want. The consumer has no chance to argue. The products are good, I admit, and the ecosystem they have created is hard to escape. But $1,000 for a metal monitor stand? Sounds like a little much, don't you think? Nonetheless, people pay these prices, and Apple benefits greatly from it. $58.424 billion. That was Apple's net income last year. This is insane! Almost $20 billion higher than the next closest companies. They make a lot of money, that's for sure. But what happens when someone tries to challenge one of their income streams? Well, in August of 2020, Epic Games decided to do just that. Epic Games, the software firm behind the uber-popular game Fortnite, was unhappy with Apple taking a 30% cut of all in-app purchases. After a series of tweets from their CEO about how unfair this cut was, and after him saying that they wouldn't take a private solution just for Epic, meaning that they wouldn't accept any out-of-court settlement, they decided to move to an in-app payment system instead of going through Apple, thereby bypassing the 30% charge. As you could already guess, Apple wasn't very happy with this, as they gross around $50 billion per year in App Store sales alone. They quickly responded by removing Fortnite from the App Store and banning Epic Games' developer accounts so that the game could no longer be updated. When Epic took the payment processing private, they violated Apple's App Store guidelines and forfeited their right to have the app on the App Store. Apple says that these guidelines are in place for security and protection reasons, which is very valid. If any app developer could have their app connect to third-party payment processors, there is a much higher risk of fraud and malware. Many people, however, are starting to think that Apple does this to protect their own share of the money and not the end consumer. They say that 30% is too much and they don't do enough to deserve that amount. And this is exactly the argument that Epic Games took to court. Right here, it's important to note that Google and the Google Play Store also take a 30% cut of in-app purchases, and we're also involved in the battle against Epic. But today, we are just going to focus on the Apple side of the story. Popeye's Chicken Corners will make your mouth water. Stop in today and pick up some crispy chicken corners and make the whole family proud. Adult supervision required. Batteries sold separately. On August 13th, Epic Games filed a lawsuit against Apple, claiming it was exercising a monopoly and accused it of unfair anti-competitive actions. The company also released a parodied version of Apple's 1984 ad, where IBM was the evil big brother. They instead placed Apple in that position and said this: Epic Games has defied the App Store monopoly. In retaliation, Apple is blocking Fortnite from 1 billion devices. Join the fight to stop 2020 from becoming 1984. Is Epic Games doing the right thing here? Should they be standing up to Apple for taking some revenue? I mean, Apple does supply the App Store servers and the platform on which the games run. Shouldn't they be paid for that? Was blocking Fortnite from the App Store a good decision? Was it even legal? The App Store is the only way to download digital applications on an iPhone. This is a bottleneck that has provided security for iPhones in the past and will continue to provide them with the same security in the future. Whereas on an Android phone, you can download APKs from the web, Google Play, Samsung App Store, and multiple other app marketplaces. This allows for the easy and unregulated spreading of malware among Android devices. There are reasons for Apple's strict App Store regulations. That's why they said no when Epic asked if they could have their own App Store. On August 21st, a court filing shows that Epic asked Apple if they could have special permission for an Epic Games Store app on iOS that would sidestep the whole 30% cut thing. Accordingly, Apple responded with a firm no, as we could guess. But as I stated earlier, this may have been more of a security thing than a monetary one. In addition to Apple banning Fortnite and its developer accounts, they also threatened to shut down the developer accounts used to update the Unreal Engine, which is an engine on which many other games run. If Apple were to do this, then the engine wouldn't be able to be updated and it could possibly break every game running on it. This is where the bandwagoning begins. Microsoft filed a declaration in support of Epic, saying that Apple's discontinuation of Epic's ability to develop and support Unreal Engine for iOS or macOS will harm game creators and gamers. Now, I'm not much of a gamer. In fact, I don't even know how to hold an Xbox controller. But I do know that most gamers are very passionate and loyal about the brands and companies that make the games they play. It would be a bad idea for Apple to step on their toes, as many of them are consumers of products Apple makes. But at this point, I guess they figure they've already done enough damage and then they might as well finish through and make an example of Epic, to show the world that you can't take on a corporate giant and that the consumer is a mindless slave that will buy the products anyways. On the 24th of August, a California district judge granted a temporary restraining order on Apple, which will block it from banning the accounts used to update the Unreal Engine. On the 25th, Apple released a statement saying this: "We thank the court for recognizing that Epic's problem is entirely self-inflicted, and it is in their power to resolve. Our very first priority is making sure App Store users have a great experience in a safe and trusted environment, including iPhone users who play Fortnite and who are looking forward to the game's next season. We agree with Judge Gonzalez-Rogers that the sensible way to proceed is for Epic to comply with the App Store guidelines and continue to operate while the case proceeds. If Epic takes the steps the judge has recommended, we will gladly welcome Fortnite back onto iOS. We look forward to making our case to the court in September." Did you catch that part where it said self-inflicted? Apple said that Epic made their own problem, which realistically, they did. Think about it. Apple offers Epic a service, listing the app on their App Store and hosting all of its data. Epic agreed with the terms and signed the contract. All of a sudden, they didn't like those terms, and they decided to break them. Apple has the right to remove the app from the store because they aren't getting paid for the service they offer. Epic made their own issue by suing Apple over this because they were the ones in the wrong. Apple compared the whole thing to shoplifting, saying, "If developers can avoid the digital checkout, it's the same as if a customer leaves an Apple retail store without paying for the shoplifted product. Apple doesn't get paid." While Apple's case is holding strong and has support, it doesn't help the end consumer very much. Because Apple takes this cut, developers will raise the price of an in-app purchase by 30% to compensate. This makes sense for them, but causes the final total for a consumer to be higher than it normally would be. By now, we're used to paying these 30% increases, as we've paid them since the beginning of the App Store. It's not like it's anything new. But that still doesn't help the fact that this case looks like it's in Apple's favor, and we're going to have to keep paying these 30% increases. The takeaway here is that if you use a service, then you should have to pay for it. There aren't any excuses to weasel your way out of it, even if you're fighting a gigantic corporation. Epic made their own issue, and it looks as if they're going to be the ones to fix it. Apple isn't going to back down. They're in the right. Epic violated the contract, and that is legal bias for a countersuit, which is in the process right now. In this episode of Corporate versus Consumer, it looks as if the corporation won. But did the consumer really lose? I don't think they did. Everything remained the same for them. And while you could argue that they are still being oppressed by this 30% charge, it isn't all that implicating. The average price of an in-app purchase on the App Store is $6.19. Without Apple's 30% cut, that would only be cut down to $4.34, a difference of $1.85. If you have the money to be making in-app purchases, then you most likely will not be affected by that extra $2. At least, that's how I see it. This has been Corporate versus Consumer. I'm your host, Max Perry. At time of release, Epic and Apple are set to have a trial in June of 2021. Until next time.